name's Tunde Okewale. I'm a barrister at Doughty Street Chambers. I'm the founder of a charity called Urban Lawyers and One Case at a Time. And I'm here today to talk with Drip Street about my life, fashion, and things that I'm allowed to. I've been a barrister since 2007. So my master's is off, I started 14 years. It was something that happened organically. I'd always been the person that had been a problem solver, whether it's my family or my friends. And I grew up in an environment where a lot of my friends were involved in criminality. So I kind of felt from a kind of service point of view that I was able to kind of give back to the community that I kind of grew up in. And when I first started, a lot of the cases and things I was doing was representing people that I kind of grew up with. I have to give my parents credit because they were very strict. They gave us, a lot of good advice about the things that we should be focused on growing up. But also I had friends some that were involved in badness that looked out for me and said, no, Tunde's safe, shouldn't get involved in that. And a lot of times people are not honest about the role that those people in the community play. There are lots of people that are gatekeepers and they keep people out of trouble and they try to keep people away and involved. And I benefited from my parents and also the community looking out for me. They saw something in me that at the time I didn't see within myself, and they made sure that I stayed on the right tracks. So I grew up in Hackney, E9, yeah. So I started off in Wall Street. But my formative years were in Morningside Estate. I went to school in Hackney, so Cardinal Pole School. I went sixth form, Cardinal Pole sixth form, so I was just East London University, London Metropolitan, East London. So literally, my education was in that particular area. Cardinal Pole was different, to how it is now. So I've gone back to my school, I'll go back. When I went to Cardinal Pole was not a predominantly black school. At that time, it was majority white. It's a Roman Catholic school. It was a very good school. It was known for getting, good grades. Over the years, apparently it's had its difficulties, but you've seen that there's been a change. So when I went back to the school, I saw mainly black and Asian kids. I was like, wow, it's very different. It's moved location. It's not even where it was when I went to school. It's actually opposite the council estate that I actually grew up in. Across the road, the school's there. Whereas before it was on Kenworthy Road and on Wall Street Common. It's moved. So it's just a different experience. I feel that that school also contributed to me being able to be who I am today. The teachers are very strict, and some of them took an interest in me doing well and helped me. I want to be an athlete.
Okay.
And my parents were like, what? Facial books. So, I was in year 9, and the school was pushing me towards sports. The school were just pushing me towards sports. Anyone I went to school with will tell you I was that guy. I was good at sports.
What was your sports?
Mainly athletics, but I play football, play basketball. I was good at sports. And my parents were like, what are you going to fall back on? What if you're not making sports? What are you going to do? And at the time, I was really angry with them. But now I'm like, yeah, they're all right. They're all right. But schools do have a tendency to try and push black males towards sports. And I do feel my parents probably saw something that I didn't see. I'm not saying that sports are bad, but people should be encouraged to, explore all avenues and then pick what they want to do rather than just being said, you know what, I think you'll be good at this, I think you'll be good at this. So from my kind of childhood experience, I did notice that, a lot of us were just pushed towards football and sports, and none of them made it. One thing that young people generally struggle with is that you have multiple things that you're good at. And what happens is that you feel a conflict because you feel like you're being pulled in so many different directions. So it's Okay, you can write a few rhymes. Should I be a rapper? You can kickball. Can I be a professional footballer? Oh, I'm good at business. Should I go into business? And what happens is that if you don't have, for example, a structure at home, or you don't have people at school to help you kind of identify what your talents are, you end up trying to do everything and you end up doing nothing. So a lot of people, didn't achieve things, not because they weren't talented, it's because their talent was scattered. If they're just focused on one particular discipline, then they would have done well. And the analogy is kind of like you've got a magnifying glass, right? A magnifying glass by itself doesn't do anything. But if it's focused on a specific sun ray, it will burn down the whole forest, right? And it's that intensity that young people lack. They have so much energy, and the energy is just scattered against, so many disciplines and things that they don't necessarily even have a passion for. You might just be good at it, but what are the things that you're passionate about? And people don't necessarily have the mentoring, whether it's from the family or the school, for them to channel that energy into a particular thing. So for me, there were so many different things that I felt I could do, or I felt capable of doing, and I was just fortunate I had my family said, focus, just focus. And people that don't have that, unfortunately, have to either have that self-discipline, or they just scatter their energy, or it comes back later on in life. So a lot of times people don't do it when they're younger, and then when they get older, they realize, oh my God, like when I was younger, I should have done this, and then they come back to it. And then you can also identify it in people that you see coming up. You're kind of like, oh, you know what, you're scattering your energy too far. Focus on one thing. And what happens in this particular culture, it's bizarre because it tells you the opposite. Everybody wants to be a businessman, or a woman, an entrepreneur. Like, not everyone can be a boss. Not everyone can be an entrepreneur. There is nothing disparaging or, bad about working for someone. There are CEOs and people that work that make 6 figures, 7 figures. There isn't anything wrong with it. I feel that culture is telling you that your success is governed by your ability to do or have certain things, and it's not. For me, success is your ability to set a goal and you to do everything you can to realize and accomplish that goal, and that's it. And whether that goal is to, be an actor, be a singer, be a dancer, own a restaurant, run a business, that's all that counts. And the reason why I say that is that in every industry, every discipline, you have people at the top and you have people at the bottom. Not every single lawyer is rich. Not every single actor is rich. Not every single football player is rich, right? But what happens is that people tend to sensationalize particular careers and sell people a dream. And people tend to flurry because they think, oh my God, I'm gonna make quick money. People don't realize that every single discipline, it doesn't matter what you do, for you to be at the optimum elite level, you need to be good, and you need to commit, and there's an excellence requirement. But people just think, nah, it's easy. There are no shortcuts. So success isn't about, I've got this car, this is what you want to do, and you work your hardest to be the best at what you want to do, and all the other things are a byproduct of you, working towards that goal and you being on that journey. Some people that I meet, what do you do? Yeah, I run this company, this company. And then if you start saying, okay, what's your profit, what's your turnover, then the conversation starts turning a bit different. If that's something that you want to do, make sure that it's something that you want to do, not something that you feel society has pressured you into doing, or something that you feel that you need to do. And the same thing even in terms of clothing and branding. So a lot of people will spend lots of money on Gucci, Louis Vuitton, and other, expensive luxury goods. Fine, if that's what you like, you like. But if you can't afford it, there are lots of independent UK brands that quality is comparable, they look good, buy them. I've got 2 functions, right? Education and inspiration. Anything I do will do one of those 2 things, whether it's through my charity, whether it's through my Instagram or whatever. So that's kind of my calling to life. So before I die, as long as I've done those 2 things, I'm good. So that's the reason why I say that you have to be quite clear about your goals. So my Instagram is designed to give you an example of what you could do, not what you should do. When I was growing up, there wasn't, an identifiable lawyer that was widely known to everyone, that I'd be like, rah, I want to be like that guy. I saw them because I was in the industry and I met them. I said, oh, these guys are cool. Like,
They exist.
they exist. But to the general public, no one knew. So I said, I'm going to change that. I'm also going to change the way that people view barristers, because people felt that, you know, if you were a barrister, you couldn't necessarily like popular culture things. You were very boring, you had to be stuffy. And the whole concept of the Instagram page was just to change that myth. It was just to say, look, if you're a professional, that's fine, but you can have layers to you. You can be at a Drake concert, you know, WizKid concert, but at the same time you can be at the opera, you can go to Michelin star restaurants, you can, you know, be as diverse and broad as you want. Don't allow society to define you. And a lot of the captions just share some of the thoughts that I've had and still have through my process. So that's the reason why, you know, the page has been designed. In terms of real talk, I try to include real talk as far as I can, because the reality of it is that everyone's just witnessing the end, not the process. So I don't have a time capsule to go back and show you. But if you go far back enough on my Instagram page, you can kind of see that it didn't start off that way. You can kind of go back and you can see the, you know, boot cut jeans. It's true, I'm being honest. You can go back, you know, the untailored suits, and you can see that there's been a gradual progression. And that's just the way it works. And I feel that I'm not saying to anyone that, you know, you can get all the things you want overnight. It's far from it. I'm simply saying that, you know, there is an alternative route, which is being a professional, where the things that you aspire to have and that you like from athletes, entertainers, you can still access if you choose to do something different. That's it, you know? And that's the reason why I'll be at certain events, I'll be around certain people, just to show you that, well, you know, the guys that you look up to, they're around me. So, fake it till you make it, right, is often misconstrued. The whole concept of fake it till you make it isn't about the public perception of you, it's about you feeling and encompassing the person that you want to be. So there is a school of thought for those people that, you know, read people like Anthony Robbins, Neville Goddard, Bob Proctor. The self-help gurus say that before you can realize anything, you have to feel it. And fake it till you make it is a process that enables you to feel like you're rich before you are, so that when you are, you're comfortable with it. That's the whole concept of it, is about you. So you faking it till you make it isn't about anyone else or you pretending to the world. It's about you convincing yourself that you deserve it, that it's coming, and that you're ready to receive it. So that's the first hurdle. I agree with it, but I agree with it to the extent that it doesn't put you into debt and it doesn't, you know, adversely impact, you know, your mental health and your general well-being. So I don't mean fake it till you make it, like go to Louis Vuitton shop and spend $5,000 on a pair on an outfit that you can't afford. No, fake it till you make it is, you know, go to that luxury hotel and order a cup of tea, what might cost you £10. Might hurt your pocket, but you're in that environment, you're occupying a space that you intend to go into in the future, yeah? I'm not saying buy a car that you can't afford. I'm saying be in environments and around people that you intend to be around. That's my thing. Okay. If you can afford an item, get one, manage it, maintain it until you're in a position to get others. And you can even do this, for example, where you say to, you know, your family and friends, look, you know what? I want to fake it till I make it. I want a really nice bag. Can everyone contribute £50 each? And I'm able to get this bag. That's how you fake it till you make it properly, because you've got the item and you haven't necessarily put yourself in an adverse situation to achieve it. But what a lot of people think is, let me get this credit card, let me get bottles of tape, let me show everyone. And that's foolishness. That's not fake it till you make it. And that's not even you doing it for the sense of you trying to put yourself in a positive frame of mind for you to receive things. It's for you to compete in a culture where your success and your value is based on what people think you have and you're able to do. So I don't subscribe to that. I subscribe to it in a way that I kind of described it. My role models were my parents. You know, they still are. Like, I go to them for advice in terms of how I conduct and operate myself, and they kind of gave me the outlook that I have in life today. In terms of the profession, there were role models in the profession once I got into it. They just weren't visible when I was trying to get into it. But once I got in, there were loads. There were loads of, you know, men and women that, you know, inspired me, still inspire me, and helped me, you know, become the barrister that I am today. Urban law is a very simple concept. Once I became a barrister, people asked me two questions. How did you do it? And I've got this problem, can you help me? And what I wanted to do was to create an organisation that made the law accessible to everyone, and the law in the sense that if you wanted to become a lawyer, it explained to you and helped you do it. So that's what Urban Lawyers does. You get the soft skills training, mentoring, work experience, financial assistance, just so you can become a barrister or a solicitor. If you want to know what your legal rights are, educational workshops in your schools, prison, community groups. So it was the whole concept around it was just making law more accessible, because when I was growing up, it kind of felt like it wasn't, and it felt like I had to, you know, really push myself and go out there, which isn't a bad thing, but I just kind of felt that, like, well, if it was more accessible, the profession would be more diverse, people would engage with the law more positively as well, because a lot of people think about the law as some sort of abstract thing, but our whole life is governed by the law. We're in this building because there is a license, okay? The food is being served, the alcohol that we're not drinking, again, all governed by rules, okay? So that's the reason why I thought it was really important to kind of, you know, make the law, you know, really simple. I've got some really big projects coming up. I've got one with Grime Daily, where every month and bi-weekly there'll be legal articles explaining the law in the context of popular culture and the grime scene. There'll also be a segment explaining key elements that musicians, people involved in popular culture need to know about. So for example, there was that situation with Little Man and Bouncer, so explaining about how to trademark, what the implications, ramifications are. So we thought it was very important for people from the community to, you know more about law. And I have a working relationship. I've done projects with them in the past, and I just felt that it'd be a good project to put something out regularly where people that are interested in that understood the implications of the law within that context. So that's that project. The Monono project is a project we're launching in a school. It's going to be a national project, but the first is a pilot at Parkview School, and it's a 7-week law module getting students into law. So we'll train and teach you up from that young age. You get to come to my chambers, see what barristers do. You get to go to a solicitor's office, and then you get to go to the Monono headquarters. So yeah, it's a 7-week program that we're going to roll out nationally. Pilot starts in Feb. Yeah, so one case at a time. A lot of people, you know, as a consequence of George Floyd's death, was like, what can we do? This could never happen in the UK. And the decision was made that, you know, myself and other, you know, professionals that had organisations would come together and create an organisation that represented, you know, black people that were victims of racial injustice, and that's what OCAT does. So it looks at strategic litigation, it looks at supporting those that need to bring cases against, you know, individuals, government of the states, and that's the organisation. We're a company at the moment. We're in the process of obtaining our charitable status. Once we do, we'll then be taking on cases. We haven't taken on any cases yet. We're backed by Clifford Chance and the Bank of America. I don't think that I can take credit for that. I feel that, like, there are lots of people in the community in their own way that have contributed to the changes that we've seen. I feel that, like, the younger generation are more vocal about injustice and less willing to accept and tolerate it. I came from a culture where you know, you just shut up and you got on with it. You knew life was hard, you knew that people were racist, and you just worked harder and you got on with it. Whereas this generation is like, we know that, but we're not having it. And, you know, I have to give recognition to, you know, your generation for the contribution that they've made. I feel that, you know, I played a small part in being visible and encouraging, hopefully, people to say, yeah, you know what, if Tunde's doing it, I can do it too. I can accept that to the extent, but I genuinely do feel that, like, if there's been change, loads of people have contributed towards it. I played my part, but you know, the move right now at the moment, that's being led by the younger generation, because this whole culture of we're not tolerating this, that's new. That's not something that, you know, my generation ever had, because if they did, we wouldn't be having this conversation. We had a situation where, you know, we experienced so many bad things. You guys don't have to, but we went through, and all that's happened is that there were people that came before me that experienced probably worse. You know, there's that saying that, you know, the first person through the door gets all the arrows. So what happened is they sent me a letter and they said, would you accept it? I said, yep. Didn't even blink. I said, yep, hell yeah. No, actually, the funny thing is that I didn't actually even see the letter. The post came into my mum's address. I don't remember why. My mum opened the letter, and I was away at a stag do in Newcastle, and she phoned me and she said, son, I've got a letter here, but I can't tell you what the contents are. It was the funniest thing. So literally the whole weekend, it was bank holiday weekend, I was like, what? As soon as I got back, I went straight to the house, grabbed the letter, and I was like, why just tell me on the phone? She's like, oh, because it said it's confidential, don't disclose the contents. It was an amazing achievement, particularly as I was 32 at the time, and it was good to be acknowledged for the work I'd done. So I felt that from a sense of acknowledgement, it was great. The level of acknowledgement even better, because, you know, it's a national acknowledgement. Obviously, there's the legacy that the name has that makes people feel uncomfortable. But I do feel that, you know, if people are excellent at what they do, they should be acknowledged and appreciated. And I think that we can't kind of discredit and take that away from it. And, you know, it's something that means people treat me nicer. If I'm being honest, like, people are really nice to me when they hear that I've got it. I'd never lead in telling them, because I don't really feel the need to, but when people hear, I do notice a difference in, like, oh, okay, like, MBE, what'd you get that for? Like, when I'm in court, they're like, oh, what'd you get that for? What would you do? Oh, it's just a change. Everyone's just a bit nicer. And I feel that change is good for a number of reasons. Firstly, it changes the perception that people have about young black men, their abilities, their achievement and contribution, because if they're like, okay, I know a young guy that's got an MBE, it becomes normal. It's not something that's, and what we have to do is start normalizing success. We can't have this concept that, you know, it's so special and spectacular. There are so many of us that are doing amazing and great things. It's not always visible, so when it is, we should appreciate it, because then it means that when it happens, it's not an anomaly. We just have this understanding that, you know, there doesn't have to be a hypersensitivity towards young black men. We're not violent, we're not dangerous, you know, we're capable of doing great things, and we are doing great things. So for me, that's what it means to me. As I said earlier in the interview, I genuinely believe that people should act their wage. And, you know, certainly when I was first starting out, I didn't necessarily have the means or the resources to, you know, access luxury fashion brands like I do now. So I've always had an interest in fashion generally, particularly fashion on a budget. And the one thing that I find with, like, you know, a lot of UK brands, they're often overlooked because people tend to follow popular culture and they want to look like everyone else. The brands that I really like are the ones that, you know, don't really care about, you know, popular trends, and they do their own things. So from a athleisure, as they call it now, point of view, I like Lakey tracksuits a lot. I don't even know how many I've got, but I've got a lot. I've got a lot of them, and they're just really nice. The quality's there, they're really good, and they're comparable to, you know, like a premium Nike Tech tracksuit. Like, not the budget ones, like the premium ones that cost a couple £100, like the premium ones. I also like Anne's. It's another brand. The reason why I like that brand is that it's a political link. So they're very keen on, you know, raising issues that impact marginalised groups. So I really like that, and they give to a lot to charity. There's a brand called Peak Life that I've become familiar with. So very keen to see that brand. It's a new brand, so I'm keen to see, you know, how it develops and flourishes. But I've seen what I like. I'm trying to think what other independent brands. You've got Benjar, you've got Trapstar, and again, the brands do a number of things. They don't only demonstrate, you know, the contribution that UK independent brands have, but it also demonstrates the ability, because these are coming from people from communities like me. It's just showing that, you know, there are alternative routes and people can actually contribute rather than just being consumers. Because ordinarily the perception is that there's just consumption, but these people are creators. Like when I was growing up, the brand was Wale Adeyemi. I remember the first time I got a Wale Adeyemi hat, okay? And I have the privilege now of knowing him, right? So growing up at the time, it was like, I'd have the beanie hat. You might have seen Craig David wear it with the graffiti and the jackets. Iceberg Slim, I think, had the tracksuit as well. For those of you that are too, you know, young, just Google Iceberg Slim, Google Craig David, Google Wale Adeyemi. But that was the kind of starting point. And for me, I like them because they really reflect the energy and the feel of the culture. And because of my job, it's important for me to kind of stay on trends and have an understanding, you know, of what's going on in youth culture. So the advice that I'd give anyone else to study law or anyone else to do anything, long-term perspective. The longer your perspective is, the easier it is for you to be successful, and the sooner it will happen. And the reason why I say that is this, is that if you know where you want to be in 50 years' time, you will make better decisions today. Because you will be very clear about whether or not the things you're doing are taking you towards or away from that goal. What a lot of people do is they live day to day. They make a lot of decisions which they're not really clear on if it's helping them or not, but everybody else is doing it and it seems like it's okay. Whereas if you start at the end and work backwards, you can identify who can help you, what you need to be doing, the things you should be researching and checking. And the same thing in relation to law. You know, a lot of people come in and they adopt a scattergun approach. I want to be a lawyer. There are so many different types of lawyers. What type of law? Do you only want to work in the UK? Do you want to be international? Like, there's so many, and the reason why I said that, you know, if you have that long-term perspective, you start becoming specific. When you become specific, you become successful. I want to say a big thank you to Drip Street. Amazing content, amazing hospitality.